latest news from Benjamin Fulford on March 21, 2022, Russia is fighting against the construction of Neo-Hazaria on the fields of Ukraine. The Hazar group planned to relocate more than 6 million residents of Israel to Ukraine, so now there is an active displacement of the local population to Western Europe and Russia. The vernal equinox marks a turning point in the battle for the liberation of the Earth. There are many reports coming from all sides indicating that the war for control of planet Earth, which has been raging for literally thousands of years, is coming to an end. The battle for Ukraine will be seen by future historians as the last stand by a satanic Hazar group that is plotting to turn the entire planet into a giant livestock farm that they rule. Sources in White Hats promise that as soon as humanity is liberated, a large-scale campaign will begin to make immortality on this Earth a reality. Quarantine on planet Earth will also be terminated, and Earth life will be allowed to colonize the universe. They say that compared to this, the Cambrian explosion, when multicellular life suddenly appeared, will seem like fireworks. The dark side is trying to stop this by killing 90% of humanity and destroying most of the natural world. In other words, they are planning not only genocide, but also ecocide. An example is the desire to transform the world's car fleet into so-called environmentally friendly electric motors. To do this, you need to dig up 500,000 pounds of Earth's crust for one battery. On the contrary, we could use home solar panels to convert water into hydrogen, powering cars that leave water vapor as a residue. This, of course, will deprive the Hazar group of centralized control over energy and, consequently, over the global economy. They are trying to kill us all before we deal with such things, hence the ongoing war. Anyway, let's now look at the current state of the battle for the liberation of humanity. According to sources in MI6 and German intelligence, the biggest step last week was the Anglo-German peace offer made to Russia last week. The proposal calls for a return to the borders of Germany before 1914. He also suggests using the Dnieper River as the actual border between Eastern and Western Europe. Here is the response of the FSB of Russia to this proposal. Russian President Vladimir Putin intends to split the EU into two parts, unite the Slavic peoples and put an end to NATO. He used the US as an attacking force, not a peacekeeping force. France and Germany must support this, otherwise they will not get gas. In other words, the Russians want to revive the option of Yugoslavia and withdraw Bulgaria from NATO. An FSB source says that the Hazar group also offered to surrender to Russia. The Hazars say they want to relocate 6 million Israeli residents to their real homeland in Hazaria, also known as Ukraine. They promise to create a buffer zone between Europe and Russia that would not belong to the UN. That is why they are displacing 6 million Ukrainians from their homeland to Europe and Russia. By the way, for some reason they have been talking about 6 million for more than a century. Perhaps one of our readers will explain why. Here's what MI6 said about this: the resettlement of the Hazars. They have no place on Earth. Ultimately, Israel and the Mossad are to blame, no one else. Meanwhile, the Israeli government is showing signs that Jews are finally beginning to realize the fact that they have been enslaved by Hazar Satanists. That's why her government refuses to supply weapons to Ukraine or impose sanctions against Russia. The Russian FSB and its Western White Hat allies agree that the Hazars, those who will not be executed for war crimes, need to be re-educated, and one generation will grow up who will no longer practice human sacrifice, sexual depravity, etc. To understand why the Hazars should never again be allowed to have a country that avoids the scrutiny of international law and norms, let's just look at the latest evidence of their incessant attempts to kill us all. Think about it. For example, in one newspaper it is written in black and white that Bill Gates wants to start depopulation through mandatory injections, because this is the most environmentally friendly solution. This article has been removed from the internet and can no longer be found. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation established the Bill and Melinda Gates Institute for Population Control, and then began financing the production of the cocktail. In addition, humanity must realize the deception, Mossad sources say. We are not talking about the test, but about what is contained on the tip of the tampon. The Chinese are now destroying 5G towers. But the Hazar group just keeps working and working like an Energizer battery. Here is a joint statement by Iran and Russia. We have a common position against the promotion of the right order by our Western partners, led by the United States, who wanted to replace international law. This rules-based order is the epitome of injustice and double standards. The discovered facts demonstrate the enormous scale of the illegal activities of the United States to distribute its military laboratories around the world. Now Putin says that they have not experimented with anything other than the well-known disease. The Russian Ministry of Defense also reported that one of the curators of the program was Joanna Wintroll, communications officer of the U.S. Department of Defense Threat Reduction Agency at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. Unsurprisingly, the Chinese government also publicly accuses the U.S. of serious human rights violations. Desperate for money to survive, Joe Biden's fake government is trying to kiss China's ass. The official Xinhua news agency reports President Biden has just confirmed that the U.S. is not trying to wage a new Cold War with China, change China's system or revive anti-Chinese alliances, and that the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence and does not seek conflict with China, she said. Liu Xian, a well-known Chinese news anchor, responded to yesterday's Sino-American talks with one sentence. Also enjoy the collapse of the Babel Tower in the Russian style. A pleasant message to the satanic clique. This massive fire at a Walmart distribution center appears to be the result of a fire at the Tower of Babel in Russia. The Hazar group, for its part, is desperately trying to cling to power with an avalanche of fake news. A CIA source says, 99% of the images shown in the Western media about Ukraine are fake. They use fictional actors, fake scripts, computer graphics, and hate speech against Putin and Russians. All this is an illusion. What is not an illusion is the medieval brutality that has engulfed parts of Ukraine still under the control of the Hazar group. For example, girls are now tied to trees and beaten. Today there is not a single statesman who would not know about the genocide by the Hazar group against Russia under the guise of the Bolshevik Revolution, a source in MI6 said. They are the root cause of terrorism all over the world, and nothing, and no one has been tabooed. There is a lot of forensic evidence of mass killings, most of which were committed by high-ranking officials. You need to understand that this is a secret world civil war, when organizations such as the Committee of 300 and many others will die out, leaving a whirlpool, warns MI6. Here is an example. Moderator of the Ukrainian TV channel 24, owned by the oligarch Akhmetov, Fakhruddin Sharfmal calls for genocide of Russian children. To destroy a nation, you must first destroy the children. According to FSB sources, he was detained by Russian special forces. The arrest of this hate preacher is part of a global counterattack and exposure of him. Because of this, Britney Spears exposed the satanic abuse she was subjected to during her 13-year guardianship by her Illuminati, including vile sexual rituals, weekly blood transfusions and medical experiments with the mantra. That is why Disney employees and judges among the 108 arrested are those who were arrested in Florida during a special operation aimed at catching human traffickers and predators. That's why Vice President Harris's husband, Doug Imhoff, is the first of 4 directors, including the President, First Lady, and Harris, who quickly became infected. Serious violations are also evident among the top officials of the fake Biden administration. Nancy Pelosi's avatar has been talking nonsense lately. 3 different contacts told me that Pelosi is 100% artificial intelligence. She's not drunk, but her program doesn't work, a CIA source said. The source of the P3 Masons says that the whole fake administration of the Biden is a staging to wake up the sleeping sheep. U.S. Secretary General and head of the U.S. interim military government Christopher Miller confirms that President Donald Trump won the U.S. elections on November 3, 2020 in all 50 states. The deep state tried to fake it, and the media reported that Joe B. won it. But, the official bulletin was provided with an electronic watermark, which the counterfeiters did not know about. Every vote cast for President Trump was recorded on a quantum server, and the fate of each individual ballot is known. The military alliance behind President Trump decided to show people how deeply corrupt all state institutions are, and since then we have been watching a movie that really should open our eyes and wake us up, so that it never happens again. At 12 o'clock on January 20, 2021, the United States was invaded by a military government led by Military General Christopher Miller and the Commander-in-Chief duly elected by President Donald Trump. Before the elections in November 2020, General K.R. Miller, director of the National Counterterrorism Service, a student of General Michael Flynn. The role of fake Joe B. is played by 3 actors. His entire crew is also a cast selected by President Trump's team. All his ministers are actors whose actions have no legal force, including that fake Minister of War who is on a visit to Bulgaria and causes such a stir, Lloyd Austin. All these actors say and do what they are told by President Trump and the military in a white hat. This whole show is about waking people up and doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work. The White House, the Capitol, and all federal buildings in Washington are empty and closed since January 20, 2021. These people have never set foot there and have no access to the Pentagon. They're actors. Russia and the United States have so far been allies in all wars. It's all just propaganda of the last remnants of globalism. The new global alliance of white hats controls the situation on the planet. Everything will be over soon. Within a few days. Wake people up and do a lot of work behind the scenes. Another sign that we are really dealing with a situation that is changing the earth, and not only political, is that the temperature at both poles is now a staggering 40 degrees above normal. Here's what a top-secret source from the space program says about this. Antarctica and the Arctic are heating up now because the magnetic flux on the planet is out of control. The dark rulers of the planet are overheating the ionosphere. Both poles are moving very fast now. The North Magnetic Pole is moving towards Siberia. This will lead to climate disasters. One of the main instabilities in the coming years will be climate disasters that will affect many countries if the alliance does not take full control of these extraterrestrial space weapons. The floods, snowfalls and droughts that we are currently facing around the world are just the beginning. We are in the last war for control of the planet.